why Dual Survivor fell off. Now I know the guy who claimed to have military experience, he lied and was kicked off the show. But he did YouTube for a while actually. He started doing his own thing and it's really cool. He's into kind of this cowboy LARPing 19th century style survivalism in the wild. It's really interesting stuff.
The waters off Nova Scotia have brought down an estimated 10,000 boats or more.
There was a time, believe it or not, when watching two grown men argue about how to build a fire was peak television. A time when a man could walk barefoot through the snow, muttering ancient wisdom about the Earth Mother, while his co-host, dressed like he was about to invade a small country, insisted on boiling water with a tactical mirror he bought off eBay. Yes.
The problem with this plant is that it's got a poisonous look-alike growing right beside it. So when you're harvesting this stuff, you have to really be careful.
I'm talking about Dual Survival, the show that asked, what if Bear Grylls had a therapist and the therapist brought a knife?
9 seasons? Wow.
It premiered in 2010 on Discovery Channel, back when that logo still meant something. When reality TV had just enough reality to fool your dad into thinking you were learning something by watching it. Dual Survival wasn't just
yeah.
another survival show. It was a full-blown philosophy duel wrapped in a jungle fever dream.
If I had to build a shelter or this tough.
Those sweaters are awesome, by the way. I want one so bad. They're not that expensive. They're only about $100. You get one made out of wool that still has the lanolin in it. It'll last you the rest of your life.
It was Cody London, the barefoot bush sage, versus Dave Canterbury, the G.I. Joe action figure with anger issues. And together, they were dropped into various hostile environments, from frozen tundras to steaming jungles, to show you how to not die, while silently trying to kill each other with passive aggression. It was perfect. The contrast was delicious. The tension, real. The educational content, surprisingly solid.
Yeah, I really liked this show. I watched the first several seasons. Once they got rid of, what's his name, the GI guy, I stopped watching. But there is some good advice. There has been some solid advice. One of the first episodes, they were in this winter and snowy environment, and Cody builds a fire, puts a plastic tarp next to the fire, and then inside the little cubby that he made with a plastic tarp, put a reflective blanket up. And his idea was that the heat from the fire will be absorbed through the plastic, and then the heat will bounce off the reflective blanket and be circulated back inside, because it's not gonna it's gonna bounce off the plastic, it's gonna bounce off the reflective blanket, and it's gonna be warm and toasty inside. GI guy said, like, no, this isn't gonna work. It worked, and it worked very well, and I've always remembered that. I have a space blanket in my emergency kit. Always a good idea to have. Keep one in your trunk. Things you need in your truck, like road flares, a first aid kit, space blanket, change of clothes, water.
It is what it is, man. I mean, I don't understand why anybody would drape plastic over their shelter in front of their fire.
No, there it is. There it is.
Just maybe reality TV had finally found a way to make us smarter and entertained. But, spoiler alert, it didn't last. Because if there's one thing we know about reality television, it's this. The only thing that survives is the drama. To understand how Dual Survival came to be, you have to go back to a very specific era in American television.
I would like to check out the coastline and see if I can get some slow-moving protein. Maybe.
Whoa, he was wearing socks. He's a lie. Cody is a lie.
An era when every network executive looked at Bear Grylls drinking his own pee and said, we need 10 more shows like that and fast. It was the early 2000s. The world hadn't fully descended into TikTok brain yet. People still believed in cable TV. And Discovery Channel was deep in its gritty rebrand from educational science content to man fights wolf while shouting facts territory. And that's when the lightning struck. Dual Survival premiered in June 2010 with a concept so simple it was genius. Take two survival experts with opposing worldviews, drop them into hellholes and let them figure it out. Or don't.
Going and just eating on the fly. Calories. These calories don't run.
Either way, it's great television. On one side, you had Cody London, shirtless, shoeless, and radiating off-grid guru energy. A man who looked like he was raised by wolves, taught by trees, and briefly dated a cactus. He believed in harmony with nature, and also that shoes were a government conspiracy. On the other side, Dave Canterbury, former military sniper instructor. Tactical, aggressive, and probably carried 3 knives at all times, even when asleep.
A bit then.
I'd offer you my pants and boots, but I know you'd turn it down.
I'm gonna turn it down. Yeah, you know that. Okay.
I'm conflicted about the knives because I have a Moranev, and a Moranev is a fantastic knife. It's only about $15-20 and it'll last you the rest of your life. Wicked sharp, holds an edge very well. You can sharpen it again easily. But I also have a Leatherman. I have a Leatherman. So I have and a Leatherman. It has a blade on it. It has a knife. It is a really good knife, but it's not as stable as a Moranev. Because it's a Leatherman. It's a multi-tool. If you're not careful with it, the knife you can bend the mechanism in your Leatherman, and the knife won't close again. You won't be able to fold it back up. But there are a lot of tools on the Leatherman that could be useful. Do I carry the Leatherman and the Moranev, or do I leave the Moranev behind? Because why would I need 2 blades? And then I also have a kukri, a Himalayan imports kukri, handmade in Nepal, really cool. Do I carry that with me? I mean, or do I go with a hatchet instead? Or do I forget the hatchet? Do I forget the kukri, and do I get a machete? The 4chan outside board really likes machetes. They say forget the hatchet, forget the kukri, go with the machete. And depending on where you're going to be hiking or camping, a machete can be useful. I don't know. I think I'd go with a hatchet instead of the kukri and the machete. I do need to get a machete though. Just to have one. They're a very useful tool. Yeah, maybe that could be more content. I should watch more stuff like this as content.
Cody wanted to adapt to nature. Dave wanted to dominate it. Cody built fire from friction. Dave built it from fire. This wasn't just survival. It was survival philosophy MMA. And audiences ate it up. The show exploded. Viewers loved the odd couple dynamic, the educational value, and the genuine tension that came from watching 2 grown men try not to murder each other with sticks while debating whether moss can be used as toilet paper. It was raw, it was different, and most importantly, it felt real. For a few shining seasons, Dual Survival was the holy grail.
It's a game. I hunt with all types of weapons, from primitive weapons to modern weapons to homemade fashioned weapons.
Part documentary, part...
Did he take an oar and turn it into a spear? Well, I need to back up. Look at that. Look at that. That is fantastic. I love this guy. I wouldn't have thought to do that. That is so cool. He's not going to catch anything. Going out by yourself with a spear is not a good way to hunt. Back in the day, it would be a whole group of people, everybody with spears, and you'd surround an animal. You'd try to trap it. The spear, I mean, you could throw it, but it's mostly just for finishing off the animal after you've ran it down.
Weapons, from primitive weapons to modern weapons to homemade fashioned weapons.
Part documentary, part drama, part outdoor therapy session. But as history always reminds us, even the most rugged, barefooted...
I will never
wilderness
understood why he was obsessed with going barefoot. And it's such a terrible idea. And he had the pseudoscientific justification for it. Oh, I trained my mitochondria. Nonsense.
over their own egos. Every survival show needs conflict.
But it will kill a small weasel, a marten, a squirrel, something like that comes in here just nibbling around.
But Dual Survival didn't just flirt with conflict. It built a shelter out of it and set it on fire. In the beginning, the tension was the point. Cody London versus Dave Canterbury wasn't a bug in the system, it was the system. Barefoot philosophy versus tactical dominance, harmony with nature versus I own nature. It felt authentic, unscripted, and just unstable enough to be fascinating. But somewhere around season 2, the show crossed an invisible line.
That bog is a torture fest. It's cold, it's wet, it's windy. It's not a place you want to hang out.
The conflict stopped being philosophical and started becoming personal. The first real fracture didn't happen in the wilderness, it happened online. Dave Canterbury, the show's resident tactical alpha, had been heavily marketed as a former military sniper, a man whose authority came not just from confidence, but from credentials.
If that's indicative of anything like what it does at night, we need some kind of solid shelter.
Except those credentials didn't quite hold up. In 2011, it came out that Dave had exaggerated his military background. He wasn't a sniper, he wasn't officially certified as one. He had training, sure, but the carefully curated elite killer turned survival expert persona, that was mostly branding.
Oh, that was so stupid. He cut himself open to cauter, just to show that you could cauterize the wound with black powder. That was so stupid.
So all we gotta do is cross that and we're home free. I just want to get it over with because I don't like freezing.
And once that illusion cracked, everything else started to wobble. Discovery didn't make a big public spectacle out of it. No dramatic on-air confrontation, no reckoning. Dave simply vanished after season 2, quietly fired, quietly erased. A few years later, he posted a video admitting he'd embellished his resume to land the role, which in reality TV terms is like admitting you lied on your dating profile after getting married. The message was clear. Authenticity mattered until it became inconvenient. With Dave gone, Discovery needed a replacement who could keep the tension alive.
We're set up for failure, you know, and a completely different environment. So, yeah, I've had to do it a few times.
But without the baggage. Enter Joe Teddy. Joe wasn't a philosopher, he wasn't Zen. He was intensity incarnate, former special forces, high energy, aggressive, the kind of guy who treated survival like a combat scenario and seemed permanently locked in fight mode. On paper, it worked. Season 3 held steady. The dynamic shifted, but the show survived.
I've never been in a desert like this, have you?
This isn't the desert, man. This is Mars.
Behind the scenes, it was already unraveling. Because Joe and Cody didn't just disagree, they fundamentally rejected each other's worldview. Cody believed survival was about minimizing risk, conserving energy, and respecting the environment. Joe believed survival meant pushing limits, asserting dominance, and proving toughness at all costs. And the producers? They loved it. This is where Dual Survival stopped pretending it was educational. As the seasons went on, producers began pushing scenarios that weren't about survival. They were about spectacle. Dangerous stunts, unnecessary risks, situations designed not to teach, but to provoke reaction. Cody wasn't having it. He later said producers repeatedly pressured him to do things he believed were reckless, jumping into freezing water for no reason, climbing unsafe terrain, pushing physical limits purely for drama.
Yeah, they kind of did similar things with, well, they did this with all their shows. Discovery Channel, it's, for those of you who remember way back when, they used to do, was the Discovery or Animal Planet, actually, that, did the Crocodile Hunter, and then they also did this other one, I can't remember the guy's name, but they were out in a swamp filled with alligators or crocodiles or something, and the producers really wanted the guy to get in the water with the crocodiles, and he actually did it. They were constantly, producers constantly push stuff like this, just really stupid and dangerous stuff.
Are you talking about drinking your piss or pissing on your clothing?
To him, it violated the core premise of the show. Survival isn't about proving how tough you are. It's about staying alive. That refusal made him a problem. By mid-season 4, Discovery announced Cody was leaving the show due to creative differences. A familiar phrase. Clean, corporate, vague enough to avoid responsibility. Translation?
I didn't know they got rid of him. I stopped watching after season 2.
he was fired. Losing Cody was bad. How Discovery handled it was worse. In a so-called behind-the-scenes episode, the network framed Cody as unstable, erratic, irrational, mentally unraveling under the pressure of survival. The editing was brutal. Ominous music, lingering shots, uncomfortable silences. He wasn't presented as principled or cautious. He was presented as broken.
This is an area where you turn the physics to your advantage to help them regulate core body temperature.
Cody didn't stay quiet. On social media, he accused Discovery of character assassination. He claimed the network pressured him to lie about his exit and offered money in exchange for silence. He said the show routinely endangered cast and crew. And then came the allegation that detonated everything. According to Cody, Joe Teddy had threatened to kill him during filming. Not metaphorically, not jokingly, literally. At that point, Dual Survival had gone from philosophical tension to something far darker. In 2016, Cody sued Discovery Channel for defamation and negligence. The lawsuit cracked the show open. Court documents and testimony revealed what many fans had already suspected. Much of the survival was staged. Scenarios were manufactured. Danger was exaggerated. Animals were allegedly planted on set to heighten tension. And when the cameras stopped rolling,
It has twice the sodium content of your normal body saline, plus toxic urea.
the hosts weren't roughing it. They were sleeping in hotels and eating catered meals. The wilderness was real. The survival, less so. In 2018,
I didn't know that. They did that with that other guy who drank his own urine. He had stayed in hotels as well.
the judge dismissed the lawsuit, not because the show was authentic, but because it hadn't crossed the legal threshold for defamation. The ruling essentially boiled down to, yes, it's fake. No,
Defamation is a really hard case to win.
that's not illegal, which might be the most perfect summary of reality television ever written. While the lawsuit simmered, Joe Teddy's own credibility began collapsing. His military background, once presented as unimpeachable, came under scrutiny. In 2014, he was removed from the Special Forces Association for misrepresenting his service. Another resume problem. Another illusion shattered. Then came the incident that finally ended everything. During filming in 2015, a dog attacked a stray cat on set. Joe allegedly intervened. Accounts vary wildly. Some claim the dog was severely injured, others that it died. What mattered was Discovery's response. They fired Joe immediately, banned him from company property, and allegedly instructed staff to contact police if he returned.
Horses behind. We're going to take anything we can off of it, put it in a backpack, and we're beating feet out of here.
When Discovery Channel, a network built on danger, draws a hard line, you know something went very wrong. By this point, the show was bleeding credibility from every angle. Original hosts gone, replacements cycling in and out, philosophy replaced with posturing. New survival experts appeared, capable, competent, interchangeable. Their names blurred together, their personalities barely registered. The rotating door casting made it impossible to care. What was once a clash of ideas had become a factory line of rugged beards and scripted tension. Ratings dropped. Fans noticed. The premise that once felt raw and unpredictable now felt hollow, like a simulation of its former self. The shelter had collapsed. Dual Survival didn't end with a bang. It withered. What began as a fascinating exploration of survival philosophy devolved into a reality TV cautionary tale.
We're taking this turf around here and we're using it as shingles over the armature of this bridge.
A show about adapting to nature failed to adapt to its own success. It wasn't killed by the wilderness. It was killed by ego, fakery, and a network that chose drama over trust. The irony? A show about survival couldn't survive itself. If the early seasons of Dual Survival felt like sipping water from a fresh mountain stream, the later seasons felt like drinking from a puddle behind a gas station. Technically still water, but you probably shouldn't. By the time season 7 rolled around, the show had turned into a parody of itself. The original appeal was gone. The clash of survival philosophies disappeared. The raw authenticity faded. Even those oddly calming, barefoot moments of quiet wisdom vanished. What replaced it was a rotating lineup of bearded guys who all looked like they were auditioning for the same beef jerky commercial. The survival techniques became recycled. The drama felt forced.
Be here, or it ain't gonna be here at all.
Yeah, it drops back down. Ah, damn it.
And the stakes
It's always in the winter, it seems like. If it's not in the snowy winter tundra, it's in the desert.
were lower than Dave Canterbury's credibility. Every episode followed the exact same formula. They'd get dropped into some supposedly dangerous environment. Then they'd argue about who was more alpha. Someone would eat something disgusting. They'd complain about each other, build a shelter, and then do it all again next week. It became so predictable that the editing felt automated, like the producers were filling in blanks instead of telling a story. Bro, we're stuck in a brutal jungle and need to build a shelter before nightfall, or we're doomed. Different episode, same sentence. And then there was the product placement. Suddenly, every survival situation had a conveniently branded solution. Starting a fire wasn't about skill anymore. It was about using the exact same magnesium striker you could conveniently buy online right now. Survival stopped feeling earned and started feeling sponsored.
Yeah, I can understand magnesium strikers in an emergency situation, keeping that on hand in an emergency, but it seems to have become, for a lot of backpackers and campers and hikers and all that, the primary source of starting a fire rather than matches or a lighter, both of which are far superior unless it's windy or wet, but even then you can get the windproof and waterproof matches.
This is definitely an elevation above that creek.
Fans noticed, and they weren't subtle about it. On Reddit and Facebook, longtime viewers complained that the soul of the show had been ripped out. One fan said they only watched now to see which new guy they'd forget by next week. Another joked that it felt like the show had been rebooted 5 times without telling anyone. The memes were even harsher. Cody London memes praised the old days, celebrating minimalism, barefoot logic, and actual expertise. Joe Teddy memes, on the other hand, were, let's just say they weren't safe for work, pets, or polite company. Meanwhile, YouTube expose videos titled things like The Rise and Fall of Dual Survival started pulling in hundreds of thousands of views. In some cases, more views than the show itself was getting. Because at that point, the behind-the-scenes drama was more compelling than the survival content. The final seasons felt like watching your favorite indie band sell out, forget how to play their instruments, and then rotate backup singers every week, hoping no one would notice.
Moving around, and that the ground beneath it isn't soft and absorbing my downward pressure.
Spoiler alert, everyone noticed. Dual Survival had everything. A killer concept, a dynamic duo, a cultural moment that screamed, learn how to survive in the wild before the economy collapses. For a while, it worked beautifully. It taught people how to start a fire with sticks, how to purify water with charcoal, and most importantly, how to argue with a barefoot man while trapped in a swamp. But then came the embellishments, the casting drama, the lawsuits, the ego-fueled knife measuring contests, the producers chasing ratings like Joe Teddy chasing a camera-friendly snake. What began as a genuine survival education turned into a corporate trust, fall into a pit of snakes, lies, and cat dog incidents. The idea behind Dual Survival, 2 opposing philosophies coming together to survive, was smart. The execution, slowly drowned in its own urine-drinking stunts and faked tension. What could have been a long-running, respected series turned into a reality TV cautionary tale with more cast rotations than a fast food drive-thru.
We'll check it in the morning and find breakfast.
Nice build.
Awesome.
So, can it be saved? Probably not. Because the one thing you can't fabricate with clever editing or fake wilderness cats is trust. And once you lose that, no number of fire-starting sticks or dramatic voiceovers can bring it back. But hey, if you learned one thing from Dual Survival, let it be this: always check the resume. And maybe, just maybe, don't trust a man who drinks his own pee voluntarily. Now go hit that like button, subscribe for more exposed survival frauds, and tell us in the comments which reality.
What was the name of that other show? It's a contest. A bunch of people go out into the Alaskan wilderness in the middle of winter, and the last man standing wins. I can't remember. I'll think about it while I go to the bathroom.